Did you fill in a slip?
I just put my hands up.
No, sorry, I've got slips here.
It's just one question. It's to do with the police. I heard everyone saying we need more police. What about reopening the police stations? You can have many police on the streets, but where are they going to be stationed? So are the stations, Willesden Green, Harlesden, Queen's Park, the local police stations, are they going to be reopened?
I'm going to ask the candidates. I'm not going to go through all the candidates, we don't have the time. I'm going to ask them to reflect on that. Thank you very much. The next question is about racism. Sarah Cox, you've got a question about racism, refugees and immigration. And Ebony Etienne, you might want to come in here as well.
Yeah, I will, although it's rather redundant given that the Conservative Party candidate.
Okay, all right, so let's go with Sarah then. Thank
okay, you. Even though the Conservative Party candidate has been too scared. I mean, Boris Johnson was scared off by 5 people. The Tory Party candidate.
And teenagers.
I would like to say that the current government has created a hostile environment. We've already heard about the hostile environment for people who are poor and people with disabilities. There's also been a hostile environment created for people who weren't fortunate enough to be born in this country with a white skin. So I would like to know from the candidates both what their parties propose and what they themselves feel about justice for refugees, for people who are fleeing conflict, climate change, extreme poverty that's been created by the policies of the richest countries in the world, about their policies on migration, and about how they feel about what people who have come to this country from all over the world, I mean, I've had 2 major operations recently, whether they feel that migrants are people to be valued or people to be treated with hostility, and the same for refugees, and what are their party's policies, because you might have very good feelings yourself. You might come from a party that believes in limiting migration and turning away refugees.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay,
compassionate migration is key to the Green Party. We welcome anybody here who is leaving their country because of war, famine, religious persecution, political persecution. How could we not? We helped create some of those problems centuries ago. It is only fitting and just that we do that. We should welcome people into this country. Anybody who moves to another country, there's this fantasy in on the right wing that people are coming to this country purely to live off benefits. How easy is that to do, to live off benefits? It is not possible. We welcome people into that. We have to have more people coming in. We welcome these people with open arms and make them a valid member of society. If we give them the opportunities to work and live, then they will work and they will live here, and they will contribute as much to society. I can't remember the exact figure, but there's a very clear indication that actually migrants to this country now contribute more per capita than people who are actually born there. So we will be lost without migrants. Hopefully Brexit will not happen, so that our doors will still be open to the EU citizens as they are now. But there are many, many, many other countries who we welcome with open arms, who should be coming here, and not on the Conservative Party basis of a point system. If people need to escape their country for whatever reason, it is only right and fitting that we, as one of the major Western democracies, welcome those people in and make them a valued part of our society.
Thank you. Deborah.
Yes, compassionate migration. Yes, our party policy is also the same. To welcome people in who are fleeing for reasons that they have no control over because they are persecuted for whatever reason in their own country. And what we would also do is allow them to work while they're waiting for asylum, so that they can, and they mostly want to, contribute to the country that they are coming to for asylum. So I think that you can say that the Liberal Democrats are a tolerant, open, and a party that goes for equality. Personally, my own beliefs, I am all for migration. I've lived in many countries around the world. I've seen poverty in India, I've seen poverty in Brazil, I've seen people who are working hard to better their lives. And I think if they make the effort to come here, and some of it is so perilous and so dangerous and so heart-rending, that we should open our arms to them, hear their stories, and allow them to contribute to our society. We should be compassionate. We should lead by example. We should be a beacon for people around the world. And I would work all my time in Parliament to do that, because I so strongly believe it, having been around the world and seen what people face, the deprivation and the problems with that.
Thank you, Deborah. And Dawn.
In 2014, the Lib Dems and the Tories introduced the Migration Act, which helped to create a hostile environment. A Labour government will scrap that. Immigration policy will be based on human rights and valuing people. We will end indefinite detention. We will close Yarlswood and Brook House, and the funds from closing those centres will go towards helping people that have been trafficked, helping domestic abuse victims, and refugees who come to our country will have the right to work, so that they're not living on the streets in perilous conditions, which we find all the time. They will have the right to work and use services and be treated humanely, because we will be a humane government that values people.
Very quickly, if you'd like to make a point.
Okay. Me?
You.
Yes, please. I have to apologize because I didn't know that I had to write a question.
Oh, is this a separate question? I'm not
No. It's in the same thing.
Okay, off you go.
Thank you. Just to ask the different parties to reflect on how expensive it is for people like me. I am an immigrant. I have been here for work for 20 plus years, 21, 22, and I quite simply cannot afford to get my British citizenship, because it costs 1,300 and something, and I can't even dream of it. I can't even dream of being able to afford citizenship.
Okay.
And yet I have two sons that are British, but I am from Mexico myself. So for more than 10 years, I am scared of the hostile environment, so I am scared of going to see my elderly parents in Mexico, because I am truly scared.
Thank you for your contribution. We'll ask the candidates to reflect on that, but I'm not going to ask them to answer now.
No.
But thank you for your
point. And my
point.
name is Dalia Sanchez. Thank you
very much. Okay, now, we'll move on swiftly. I've got 3 questions on the economy, and I'm going to actually put them together, and then we move on to the student loans and the NHS, and we'll call that a day, and then we'll ask our candidates to summarise. Now, I've got 3 questions on the economy, and I'm going to link them. There's one from Adrian Stern. Adrian Stern, where are you?
Here.
Okay, and then there's Robert Godser who want to talk about, I don't know if you agree that we can link that, about helping businesses create employment.
I'm very interested in hearing what...
So I'll ask you to come in. And then Tom O'Callaghan, you want to say something about the failures of capitalism? Tom O'Callaghan, where are you? Okay, so can we start with Adrian Stern? Quick question. You're okay with me reading it? Adrian's question is, do you think the size of the national debt matters? Do you think the size of the national debt matters? And then I'm going to ask Robert Godsell, do you want to say something?
I'm interested in the views of the parties on how they will create employment, because everybody at the moment is seeking to end austerity. And what I haven't heard, particularly, I must admit, from the Labour Party, is how you will create employment. It seems to be an attack on business, which creates wealth in this country.
Thank you. And then Tom O'Callaghan, about the failures of capitalism. Do you want to be very brief? Off you go.
I've got 2 quotes from yesterday's Times. The richest 10% of households own 44.6% of private wealth, while the poorest 30% have less than 2%. And a quote from Francis O'Grady at yesterday's Times, the General Secretary of the TUC said, "Everyone should have the chance to save for their family and their future, but working people aren't getting a fair share of the wealth they create. It is only those who are already incredibly wealthy who don't have to earn to make money from money, and that's the heart of the growing inequality."
Thank you very much, Robert. Dawn, off you go.
Gosh, that's a lot. The size of the national debt, of course it matters. Lots of people are talking about that in regards to Labour's commitment to ensure that WASPy women get their pensions back that was taken from them. It's worth it, and ultimately the government's been taken to court on that, so they'll have to find the money anyway. So yes, it does matter, but sometimes you have to borrow. The Labour Party's borrowing to invest, and that maybe leads into jobs. The Labour Party will borrow to invest so that we will create jobs. So the Green Industrial Revolution, for instance, will create millions of jobs for people, and it will ensure that areas that used to have mining, for instance, that they have skilled jobs where they can help with the Green Industrial Revolution, to help with our climate change emergency and all of that. So it's all about creating jobs. And in regards to businesses, we'll ensure that there's finance available for businesses, especially small, medium enterprises, because at the moment they've been starved of cash because the banks are not lending money to small, medium enterprises. And we will ensure that that changes by ensuring that we have regional investment banks all around the country. And we hope that that will help businesses to create more jobs. What was the other one?
About the rich and poor, the growing gap.
Oh, absolutely. And that really does sum up exactly why we need a Labour government, because that growth between the very richest and the very poorest has got bigger. We're seeing more and more people are homeless. People used to be 3 wage packets away from being homeless. Now they're just 1 wage packet away from being homeless. You know, people are spending a vast majority of their wages on paying rent, for instance, especially in Brent. Brent's a very expensive area to live in. So what we're finding is that there's people living in their cars, going to work, and then having to travel outside to go back home, and they might go home at the weekend. What kind of society is that we're living in, that is happening? You know, the 5th richest economy in the world, that shouldn't be happening, and it doesn't have to happen. You know, it is a political choice, it doesn't have to happen. So the Labour Party will have a completely different approach, and yes, the tables will be turned. The tables will be turned. Finally, the tables will begin to turn. And so we will have a different way of managing our economy and managing our country. There's no reason why wealth cannot be shared. And we want, just to pick up on that other question, actually, the Windrush we will make sure that in regards to immigration, that we won't run it for profit. We will run it so that people pay the admin fees, rather than having to pay the £1,000 extra. So we wouldn't run it for profit. So you'd be able to afford your British citizenship. And let me tell you, the hostile environment was created because of the 2014 legislation, and that's why the Windrush generation were treated so appallingly. And we would make sure that wouldn't happen under a Labour government. And children are having, the cost of children, over £1,000 for children to be registered. Well, how are they going to afford that in a family? It makes no sense. So a Labour government will be run for the people, not for profit.
Thank you. Do you want to ask a question afterwards, at the end? Can the candidates finish, please? Yes. Answer them, and then I'll come back to you.
Yes, the national debt does matter, and we should be borrowing now because the cost of money is quite low. But if we spend and spend and spend and spend and borrow and borrow and borrow, we may find ourselves in another situation where we have far too much debt, and we will end up with austerity again because the debt will be so high. So we have to watch out with the borrowing, but we really should be borrowing now to spend on our public services. Yes, that is true. What will we do to encourage business? It's actually not true that the banks are not spending money to small businesses at the moment. They are, because the cost of money is so low. They're really looking for people to borrow money. But what we would also do is we would look to the next future of work. Our jobs are changing so rapidly. Skills in this country will need to change along with them. This is the 4th industrial revolution coming up, and we are not prepared. So, the Liberal Democrats has a skills wallet that will help people retrain through life for the jobs that they will do. This is not changing jobs, this is changing careers. You may be trained in one thing and then go on and do the same thing somewhere else, but technology is coming so thick, so fast, that you will probably have to change your skill set 3, 4, 5 times in your lifetime. And so the Liberal Democrats will help you do that. We can't look at old technologies. We have to look to the future. The future of work will be different. And we will also help businesses. Now, Brent is 92% of all the business in Brent have less than 10 employees. And 20% of the business in Brent are retail. So we would scrap the business rates and replace it with a much more fair system so that the high streets don't disappear. Lots of the rents on the high streets are so high that businesses cannot afford to be on the high streets. So we need to rebalance that, because a vibrant high street is really, really important, especially when we're trying to tackle climate and people don't want to take cars everywhere. They need to be able to walk onto their high street to get all the things that they need within walking distance of where they live, if they can, in a city like London. So we would do that as well. I think that there is a lot of incentives. You cannot, onto the capitalism issue. Yes, we live in, the statistics there are true, but taxing the very wealthy and increasing the corporation tax that much will not solve the problems of spending. It will not. It will not raise the monies that you can do for the rest of to spend in the rest of the country, because there just isn't enough. Now, you can punish people who evade taxes. You can close all the loopholes to make sure that they don't send their money overseas, and that's something that is really, really important. And as an anti-corruption activist, that was something that I worked for really, really hard. Shell companies, beneficial ownership, those are the things that have to be eliminated from the UK economy completely, so people cannot hide their money. Unfortunately, at the moment, the rich can hide their money. So putting the taxes up is really going to hurt the strivers, the ones that just manage to get beyond that. So I don't think that that is a policy. You need to rebalance capitalism. You need to reform capitalism. You cannot just tax the rich. So I think that.
Can she finish? Could she finish, please? This is
I think I'm finished.
Okay. Really?
National debt is the national debt. I think probably all countries have a national debt, and ours is going to get bigger soon, because we will all the parties are planning to borrow more money to invest finally in the country. It was one of the principles of Keynesian economics that you borrow money in recession times in order to invest in your social structures, into industry, into people's jobs, into housing, to kickstart the economy. This did not happen with the Tory Lib Dem coalition government, and we are still paying the price for that now. So that's that issue. When the Green New Deal is implemented, hopefully very, very quickly, an enormous number of new jobs will be created by doing that. Now, it is essential that the people who then lose their jobs in what is currently some of the car industry, in the petrochemical industry, etc., that those people then receive adequate training so that they can easily move in to other areas of employment. This whole notion of 0 hours contracts also has to be ended. People have to know that they're going to have a serious job that can feed them and their children and their families and their other dependents, and pay for a roof over their heads, which is adequate. And the final thing I want to talk about is GDP. As you probably know, it is a cornerstone of Green Party thinking that we find another way of analysing a country's success other than by GDP. GDP is not something that can keep on growing. It is simply not possible. It demands taking resources and using them. We've already taken quite enough resources out of the planet. We have to think of another way of addressing how we describe the success of our countries, not just the economy, but the society. What's the happiness index of a country? What's the work satisfaction index of a country? These are things that are really, really important, and these are things that the Green Party will be bringing in due course when we run the government.
Thank you, William. I'm not going to take any questions really, it's 4:20, and I've got 2 more points here. I've got Mohammed Al Ghul. Where are you? Do you want to ask a question about student loans?
You did say that I would...
Very quickly. Sorry, Mohammed. Let's say this gentleman, I didn't promise. I'm sorry. It's
This is to Dawn Butler.
Very quickly.
Dawn, you speak very eloquently about the poorest in society, but you're shedding crocodile tears, quite honestly. I'd like you to, before you get my vote, I'd like you to explain why you claimed 15,000 second home allowance in 2005 and 2006, 21,800 in 2006 and 2007.
I'm sorry.
As an assistant government whip, your annual salary was £90,000 a year, including your entitlement.
Mohammed.
Your total expenses for 2 years were £285,000. That's people here.
Can we?
Anywhere.
Thank you. Thank you.
The question is, please explain why you need 2 homes in London, one which is 32.
We're here to talk about the general election and about policies. Thank
The
you.
point is that Dawn is talking about
I'm going to ask Dawn if she wants to say a
forest in
comment.
society.
Thank you.
And their crocodile tears.
Thank you very much. Very quickly, Dawn.
So let me first of all say this, that to accuse me of shedding crocodile tears means that you don't know me at all, and all you need to do is come and sit with me in one of my surgeries and see whether you could ever do what I do every day, the people that I meet. You've gone back 10 years. When you talk about the amount of expenses, that includes the wages that I pay my staff, actually. So, if you think that that's not, so saying that is just absolutely wrong. Some of the figures that you quoted are wrong, they're incorrect, actually. And let me tell you something, I'm not going to argue with you, but you've asked me a question and I'm prepared to answer it, even though you're going back how many years. Let me tell you something.
Can I just move on?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Mohammed, student tuition fees.
Yeah, I'm just asking about... Oh, thank you. I just want to ask about the student loan. What's your policy with regard to student loans? As you know, our kids are born in this country and educated in this country, and they are the future of this country. So it's not fair, really, to end up with a huge debt. I know the three parties they were talking about giving benefits to immigrants and so many people. That's fine, but we need to take in consideration our own kids who are the future of this country.
Thank you, Mohammed. I'm going to ask you to be quick because the time is passing.
The Green position is very simple on this. We will cancel student debt, we will make university places free, and we're also looking at providing maintenance grants as well. So it'll be the end of student debt.
Thank you.
We're not going to cancel we're not going to cancel university fees. So I assume that I'm not going. But I will just mention that it was the Labour government that brought in student fees in the first place and did triple them in the early years. So I will say that, and then I will say that we will have more bursaries, and we will have more grants for the living grants for people.
Thank you, Deborah. Dawn, quickly.
We will scrap tuition fees and bring back education maintenance allowance.